Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm praying to God that the construction does not start outside. They're doing something on the apartment building right next door, and if they start up, I'm just gonna have to keep going because I'm pretty sick of trying to work around their schedule. So today we're talking about a gloomy subject, and that is what to do when you feel like the worst in the room. Notice I say feel like. This isn't going to be like a BuzzFeed quiz, what's your hierarchy on the food chain? Like, this isn't going to be anything like that. If you feel like the worst, you feel like the worst, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Leonardo da Vinci felt like he was the worst in the room, and he died feeling very dissatisfied with himself. So it doesn't matter what it is. If you feel like crap, you're feeling like crap, but sometimes you genuinely feel like the worst in the room because you might actually be the worst in the room. It happened to me. And the problem is, with social media, as wonderful as it is that I can follow hundreds, if not thousands of artists on my phone and look at their incredible work, it's really easy to feel low self-esteem because you're looking at all these incredible artists and you're thinking, God, why aren't I them? And you beat yourself up because you're like, I'm never gonna be on their level. I don't know why I'm not on their level. What can I do so that I can be like them? And it sucks. So we're talking about that today. But before we get into the advice thingy, I have a little bit of story time because what can I say? I'm a masochist. And I want to tell you about my terrible experiences with this. So when I was in elementary school and most of middle school, I was in this really, really small school, which only had like 22 students per grade. So I, of course, was the class artist because no one else was interested in art. Duh. So I had this gigantic, lovely ego because I thought that I was the shit and no one could beat me and I was the absolute best in the world. Then my family moved to Connecticut and I suddenly was I suddenly met all these other art people who were my age and literally like years ahead of me in terms of talent. So within 24 hours, I found myself feeling like the best artist in the room to feeling like the worst artist in the room. I just complete mediocrity. So that made me feel like crap. And then in the next 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year of high school, when I was taking real, like kind of real-ish art classes, my ego got busted down a little bit more. So basically, the way that the professors or the teachers did the critiques was everyone would hang their stuff up on the wall and someone would go first and they would talk about a piece that they really liked, and then the artist of that piece would talk about a piece that they really liked, etc., etc. So what ended up happening was it was a lot like getting picked for like a team in your gym class, you know, like getting picked last, that kind of feeling. So all the people who were really good, they obviously got picked first. And then little old me got picked last several times, or if not last, close to being last, highest middle. I felt really crappy about that, and those critiques were my way of seeing where I was in the artistic hierarchy. And I was very obsessed with that hierarchy, again, because I felt like I was the best my entire life up until that point. So that did make me feel good, and then to add insult to injury, there were multiple times where I would be sitting with all of my cool art friends and we would all be drawing and someone would come up from behind us and they would say, "Oh, I really love your artwork." And me, with my giant ass ego, would immediately assume that they were talking about my artwork, and I would spin around all confident and shit and I'd be like, "Oh, thanks so much." And then they'd be like, "Oh, I was not talking about you. I was actually talking to your friend, but your stuff is good." Totally fake. So for like 3 years, I felt like dirt. Like I felt so crappy and I didn't really know what to do with myself because I had this gigantic ego. I wanted to be the best in the room. I had that taste, you know, the little tay-tay of what it should be, right? But then it just was totally not the case and I was really down in the dumps. But things turned around for me, and I'm gonna tell you how it turned around for me. Here's the thing. I can go, ooh, don't be down on yourself. It's gonna be okay. You are a good artist. I can tell you that, and it's gonna reek of bullshit. Here's the thing. If you work towards becoming the best artist in the room, you're gonna feel better about yourself because you will at least know that you have made tangible steps to better yourself. Yes, hard work is always better than false praise. So, how did I do it? There were 4 thingamajiggies. Hopefully I can remember them in a slight order. The first one, you're gonna laugh, but you need a rival. You need the Sasuke to your Naruto. You need someone, ideally your age or within a couple years of your age, to motivate you to keep going. So for me, that person was one of my dear friends, who probably knows who she is. Hello. But there was this girl in my grade who was insanely good at art, still is. And she was like years and years and years beyond me, and still kind of sort of is. So I was very jealous of her. I distinctly remember how I felt looking at her sketchbook for the first time and just thinking, oh my God, like, is this where I'm supposed to be right now? Like, it was kind of mortifying, but there was this little fire within me that was like, I want to be as good as her. No! And I worked my little ass off to be as good as her. Like, my goal, my short-term goal was I want to be at least as good as her and or be better than her. I want to be better than her now. So I adopted a lot of the things that she did. She's one of those people that just draws constantly. Like, if she's sitting down for like 2 seconds, she's in her sketchbook working. She would sketch for like, she sketched during all of her classes, she sketched during all of her free time. She spent like 3 to 4 hours every single night drawing, and this was like in middle school, early high school. I mean, that's kind of insane. So I adopted those same things. I started drawing a lot more. I constantly kept my sketchbook on me. I just drew and drew and drew and drew, and that helped a ton. But mostly it was that fire. It was just that I want to be better than you. And it wasn't like an anger thing. I really loved her. She was my close friend. But hey, I also want to be as good as her. And that's completely healthy. So long as you aren't like tearing each other down or anything like that, it's fine. I kept my rivalry to myself and I persisted, and that helped me move forward with what I wanted to do. Number 2, how do you move forward? Practice. It's probably something that you've heard a million times before, but I'm going to say it anyway. You need to practice to get better. You are not going to wake up one day and just suddenly have all of these powers. No. It doesn't matter how many times you go on Instagram and look at your favorite artists and think, oh, I want to be like them. You actually have to put pen to paper and get it moving. So for me, because I was following in my rival's footsteps, I was drawing a lot more. So in those 3 years where I was feeling like crap, I was just so invigorated and angry about moving forward that I would sit down at night and I would do watercolor tests and do it like figure drawing, and I would do all these other little tests and things. I watched a million YouTube tutorials, so many YouTube tutorials, and I would spend my free time going on DeviantArt, which is a very dated sentence, and I would look at tutorials, every tutorial, and I would just try to learn as much as physically possible every single day because I wanted to be like my friend. So you have to practice. You have to up your game. If you are not spending like at least an hour every day doing art, and that hour can be like chunked up, like 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here. But if you gotta spend more time than what you're doing, right? And that'll move you forward. I'm not saying you're gonna get better overnight. Hell no, I wish. But you gotta practice. And the third thing, so you have your rival. Now you need a role model. This role model is some artist that you love and is someone that you want to be in like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, someone like that. For me, that artist was Camille Rose Garcia. The turning point, like the real turning point for me, was the summer between sophomore year and junior year of high school, where I found Snow White by Camille Rose Garcia. It was in freaking Urban Outfitters of all things, and I fell in love with that book. The illustrations were and still are gorgeous. Everything about it was amazing. My whole world of illustration changed when I looked at that. And that was the deciding factor for me, where I was like, I'm going to be an artist. There is no other career for me. I'm going to be an illustrator. I'm going to make it, and this is what I'm going to do. So I became obsessed with her artwork, and I started kind of following her steps a little bit. Not really copying, but definitely taking hardcore inspiration from. So for example, if you look at those illustrations, it was all watercolor and ink, and it had a very kind of gothic, dark, creepy, whimsical sort of tone to the artwork. So I adopted those things. Starting junior year, I did nothing but watercolor and ink because I learned from her technique and I thought it looked really, really cool. So of course I copied that. And I made all of my stuff in that sort of gothic, whimsical kind of style. That's literally it. That was the only similarity between our two stuff, was like kind of the technique and then also like subject matter, but that's really it. If it's totally fine to copy, and this video is not about copying, that's a topic for another day, but it's okay to copy or be inspired by someone, so long as you're not like deliberately doing every single thing that they do. Just take little bits that you like the most and you can handle, and you're fine. So basically what happens is, you've got your rival and you're down here and you're like, I want to be better. You've got your role model who is telling you, this is where I want to be. So now you just have to get on that path. And that's what practice does. Practice pushes you forward to meet that goal. And the rival is the one nudging you to move you forward. It's kind of like that saying about like the donkey with the stick and the carrot. Your role model's the carrot and your rival's the stick. It kind of goes along that way. The fourth tip is bite off more than you can chew and chew it. One of the biggest things that I did that transformed myself was I spent way more time on projects. It used to be, back in my dumb days of freshman, sophomore year of high school, if we were given a project that was 2 weeks long, I would only spend 3 days on the project, and then I would just kind of twiddle my thumbs for the rest of the week and a half. That's not gonna produce good work. And no wonder I was being picked last for critiques. Everyone else put 2 weeks worth of effort and I was only putting in 3 days worth of effort. That shows. So I started challenging myself more, and for example, the first project that we did junior year, I decided to do a portrait of this man whose face was covered in wires, which meant I had to hand draw every wire, hand paint every wire, and hand ink every single wire. And at the time, I thought there's no way I'm gonna be able to finish this. This was a big portrait too, but somehow I pulled it off, and I spent way more time on that project than anything else, and guess what? Your girl was picked first. Or I don't know if I was picked first. I was definitely like within the top 3. And it made me feel good about myself because it was my first win that I had in like 3 years, a little over 3 years. So you have to put in a little bit more time into your projects. Do a little bit more than you think you can, and you will go so much farther. And then the last tip is persistence. You cannot get down on yourself. You cannot beat yourself up. You cannot wallow in your feelings, because what is that going to do? You're just going to stall your progress. Stop wasting your time feeling sad and move forward by doing steps to move yourself forward. You have to just keep practicing, you have to keep working, and you have to think to yourself, this is what I want. I want to be like my role model, and I'm not going to let my rival beat me to being that person. So don't let other people get you down. Use them all as fuel. It's really good to be the worst in the room, because that will propel you forward faster than you ever could have imagined. And you will get to the point where you are happy with yourself and you feel like you are the best in the room. You might not literally be the best in the room because of subjectiveness, but you can do it. I know you can. I was able to more or less transform myself. Does that mean that I have a long way to go? Hell yes. I'm still not where I want to be. But man, I've made a lot of progress. I would still be that sad, pouty, egotistical 8th grader if I hadn't done all the steps that I had just talked about. So if you have any tips on how to improve your artwork, or if you have any role models that you follow religiously, leave them down below. I want to know about them. And I will see you guys in the next video. Now, here's the thing, y'all. I may increase the number of videos to like 2 a week. Maybe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but I do want to put out more videos and on a more consistent basis. In any case, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Have a happy weekend. And follow me on my other social media. So it's all Biana Bova, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys, love you so much.